LEC told me that I would live to see a European team win a world championship. It's been 84 years and I'm still waiting.
Does this sound like you?
Because we sure recognize it.
Hi, I'm Justin.
And I'm Time.
Internationally recognized man.
And
license pending.
play advices to the stars.
Playoffs giving you the heebie-jeebies.
Fingers a little shaky on the keyboard.
Well, look no further.
Because we're here.
And we care.
I need the toilet.
With literally days of experience under our belt.
We're experts of helping you help yourself. Oh no, not another playoffs. What am I going to do? Don't worry.
You found us.
Just in
time. With over 2
legally registered
employees.
LEC Just in Time is here to help you stave off a premature vacation.
Always falling short at the final cut.
Never made playoffs.
Always on the wrong side of the drafts.
Feeling like a misfit in your league.
Struggle to excel early game leads.
Head-to-heads and tiebreakers, giving you a sore noggin.
Well, look no further. Are you tired of losing to your former teammates? Are you tired of failing 2v2 tower dives?
Here at Just in Time, sorry, no refunds.
Was your last notable performance in 2017?
Are you suffering from grabs drafts? Without help, getting your team to the finals will be a walk in the park.
But don't take our word for it. We got 3 upvotes on Reddit and helped build Europe's super teams. Just listen to this.
Just in Time is a
very good
man with
a good network and offers
professional help. Tell everyone that's the last time I
going to
lose.
Objection! 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 Aren't you mad about your regular split performance? Wouldn't you like to show your vitality in playoffs? I'm here to help you take the fight right to them, right here at LEC. Because isn't it time you got some justice for your group stage? Yes.
What?
Broxer!
There's only a week to go until playoffs, but don't worry.
For only $9.99, 99, 9 RP.
You can have your free consultation now.
Remember, teams,
You can still be good enough when you go just in time.
God. Okay, Rogue has to buy this.
We got him last time. Ooh. Fnatic?
Broxer!
Welcome to Berlin, Germany, home of the LEC for Week 7, Day 2 of the spring season. After securing their spot in playoffs with a crazy comeback win over G2 yesterday, Misfits is entering the stage looking to take down Team Vitality in our opening match of the day. Oh, if that's only going to be half a banger of what G2 Misfits was yesterday and also actually Vitality's game, then we are in for some good times. My name is Shox and I am joined by Nymera and Broxer once again. Great job on the acting, dude.
It wasn't acting, that's the real key. That's just, it's what I do on the weekends.
Okay, I see. Broxer, also, since you joined yesterday, the games got super crazy, so I'm guessing you have something to do with that?
Possibly. I mean, yeah, I gotta admit I was a bit surprised about the first game, the Clad. Obviously, we ended with a bit of a spicy one. The Fnatic, not Fnatic, G2 versus Misfits.
Common mistake.
G2, Fnatic, close enough. But yeah, all in all, a lot of exciting games for sure.
Definitely. So let's take a look at the standings because, of course, something was afoot there in terms of who got knocked out of playoffs and who locked in. In fact, Rogue, Fnatic, and Misfits now have all locked their spot in the playoffs, leaving only 3 spots to be divided under the bottom teams. And unfortunately, or luckily unfortunately for those teams, Astralis is out of contention. They will no longer be able to make the playoffs no matter what necessarily happens. And yeah, very sad for Astralis. They gave some teams a run for their money. I'm sure they'll play spoiler. But I do want to talk about G2 versus Misfits. We already touched on it. What an incredible game, and we are so lucky that we have a pro player in Broxa here to talk about that, who is uniquely positioned to give us that analytical insight we yearn for. So Broxa, please enlighten us. What did you make of G2 Misfits?
Omega lol.
Great. This is actually what we're paying you your entire fee for, so you can leave that with
To argue
your
with
lines.
that, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the man's spoken.
The man has spoken. Hey, all jokes aside, Nymira, I mean, what the hell? That was insane, that comeback from Misfits.
It was incredibly strange
Insane.
to see this happen because this early game lead was astonishingly large. Now, we did see the composition kind of come online from Misfits. Eventually, G2 couldn't quite finish them off, and then you had Vito on this Akali with the Yuumi on top of them with nothing to really stop them, and he just ran them through.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, including myself, of course, this game was a bit of a surprise. Obviously, amazing early game from G2, playing so dominant from level 1 up until around like 17, 18 minutes, and then a combination of G2 doing what I feel like G2 kind of has a tendency to do regardless of roster, like getting a little too over-eager, a little too excited, perhaps a little too greedy, and then eventually threw it away. And the combination of G2's greed, as well as Misfits obviously being really good at stalling it out and finding opportunities, well, it turned into a bit of a crazy comeback.
It did, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I already read some comments that were like, well, why are you focusing on G2 throwing? Well, because it was an insane throw. Like, oh, do you not want us to talk about it?
Only G2 could lose that game.
But on the other hand, you're right, Broxa. Yeah, Misfits playing incredibly well. As you said, having a bit of their comp on their side, but it does take a lot of restraint and a lot of clear-headedness to stay in that game.
Yeah, for sure, because to have the mentality to hold on that long in one of the most historic deficits that we've seen in this region, that's no small feat. That takes a level of veterancy and calm nerves that we don't necessarily expect from this team. So for me, this is actually quite a pivotal game for them to show the next stage in their development.
I think that's a great point, and we'll see where it gets them. Fnatic also played Rogue in our marquee matchup, and we had the question, who is the best team in Europe at this point in time? Who should be #1? Fnatic yesterday said, Broxa, it is us and not Rogue. You should keep us into account.
No, definitely. I think, again, we spoke a bit about Melrang yesterday being kind of the X factor for Rogue in the early game, and Fnatic, they won one fight, and from there, Melrang literally wasn't allowed to play League of Legends for the rest of the game. They tracked him, they just shut down Rogue in any possible way, and with their aggression, with their smart plays, Rogue didn't really stand a chance.
Yeah, and I think what was really important for me is that Fnatic never let up. They didn't let Rogue coast through into a comfortable mid-game and play around their solo laners, which could come online at that point. They kept picking fights, they kept picking them time after time and stopping Rogue setting up on the map. They found a really good way to deal with them.
Definitely so. And does this mean that the Malrang jig is up a little bit? You know, we saw Astralis leading the way a few weeks ago. Now Fnatic with this power in the early game, then just absolutely shutting him down. What do you make of it?
Well, I think more than anything, we should give props to Fnatic for coming in so well prepared, because I also think Malrang has slowed down a little bit the previous weeks. He knows now that people are going to be prepared. They're not going to die to ganks as frequently. And it's a skill on its own as a jungler, just being able to change your style a little bit and adapt. And obviously, against Fnatic, well, he didn't have a fun time, but I don't think it's all up to Malrang either. It's just as much like, often in isolation, it can look like you as a jungler just, make a lot of mistakes, but it's also kind of a team game, supporting your jungler, helping each other, defending camps, setting up vision, and Rogue as a team just couldn't really deal with the pressure yesterday.
Yeah, I thank you for giving the jungle perspective, so we don't pile on the junglers all the time. Jankos is probably very thankful to you as well. And let's talk about XL. They are so close to making it to the playoffs. In fact, in 97% of remaining scenarios, they lock a spot in playoffs, Nymira. They're so close. They've been there before, but this feels like it.
And it has been building for a couple of weeks. And yes, there will be continued jokes about how, wow, they've done this before. Surely it can't go wrong. But this is a very different team, a very different outlook. They've found a different kind of outlook on the game. They found ways to adapt in the mid game, and that leadership, which sometimes they'd lacked in the past, from somewhere has come alive.
They are finding new ways to win the game. And there's a final game that I want to talk about yesterday, which is Vitality versus VDS, which was not maybe up to the players, Broxa.
I think in a lot of ways the ending in that BDS versus Vitality game was really funny. I know Kasi said in his interview after the game that they were just fighting, and eventually they realized, wait, guys, the Winions are actually hitting their base right now. Maybe we should stall out this fight. So I think it would have been really amazing if Kasi instead said, well, this was all planned, you know, we took this fight on purpose for this to happen. Wasn't the case, but still at the same time, obviously, they took a fight at a great timing and it turned into a fun victory.
Yeah, it was like a Friday night on Camera show. These guys, I mean, this wasn't maybe the awareness they had, but the fact that they put themselves into that position to go to those late game fights to seal the victory in that way, it's memorable if nothing else.
Yeah, the Winions definitely wanted to have a little fiesta, and let's keep this Vitality party going as we hit them with some quick fire questions.
Who is the biggest inter on your team?
Self-made.
Karzi.
Self-made.
Which teammate is your dream solo queue partner?
Labrov.
Perks.
Alfari.
Labrov.
Who is a secret one trick but doesn't want to admit it?
Self-made.
Oscar.
Self-made.
Pick no one, yeah.
Maybe self-made. Maybe, yeah.
Who is the most underrated player on your team?
Labrov.
Karzi.
Me.
Karzi.
Labrov.
Who is the most overrated player on your team?
Perks.
Me.
Karzi.
Perks. No, I'm kidding, it's me.
Me.
Who is the most cringe on social media?
I guess me.
Karzi.
Definitely Karzi.
Me. Or no, it might be also Karzi.
Oh, that's for sure Kasi. Kasi is by far and away the most cringe on social media.
We love Karzi's content, though. That's how you get the impressions, King. Keep going. I also like that with the overrated, they were all like me. You know, they take the bullet for their teammates. I love it.
I'm glad that they realized Karzi is cringe as power.
Yes, it is. We have embodied that here in the LEC. So, but back to more serious content. We also wanted to have a look at a rather new pick emerging in the LEC recently. Everybody's favorite horse is back, Hecarim. Now, of course, we've had times where Hecarim has been strong in the past, but what makes him so strong right now in the meta in Europe?
I think right now Hecarim just fits really well into the current meta, not only in Europe, but in all the other major regions. He's seeing a lot of play as well. The thing is that not only last year, but just as much this year, farming, being an efficient farming jungler, cycling your camps, and still being able to find opportunities to pressure and look for objectives is considered very important. And this is Hecarim does really well. He has a really good clear speed. He's really strong after level 6 for the first Drake fight and first Herald fight. And overall, he just brings so much even later into the game. He can engage, he can set up fights, he can do so many things, and then, you know, he does damage, he's tanky, he pretty much got it all.
Yeah, but specifically in Europe as well, bringing it back to the LEC, you know, we haven't really been that explosive pre-level 6. You kind of leave that to Fnatic and maybe a bit of Rogue, right? But because we aren't having the most successful, destructive early games, Hecarim survives through to that level 6, survives through those points of power which Brox was talking about. And the fact that he's so reliable at doing that in our region has made him very powerful.
What's up with the build and the rune choices and stuff like that? Is there room for variety or not really?
Not really, not in competitive play at least. In solo queue, there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. We see a lot of aggressive Hecarim builds, but in competitive, it's usually the face rush. Secondary runes are a little different, but most of the time you're going to see precision with Triumph, with Tenacity, because with face rush, you get so much movement speed as you go in. You get Tenacity, you get Triumph, so usually you're going to go back out again, and you can basically just hard engage, run out of the fight, get back in there, and then for the build, usually you're going to see Lucidity Boost, you're going to see Chem Tank, and then Force of Nature and Deathmatch played in whichever order, depending on if you need armor or magic resist.
I see. You talked about Europe and it's being especially viable for the way we like to play here. It's not the case everywhere, though, that Hecarim is as successful.
Yeah, so obviously I'm not Dagda, but he has been around here this weekend. But speaking from the perspective of the LPL, you can see that Hecarim can struggle versus some of our stronger early game junglers. So the Lee Sin, the Jin Zhao, not so much some of the others, but particularly these ones that can get right up in your face early, stop you from farming, contest you on your camps. They've seen quite a lot of success there against this champion.
Yeah, I think for Lee Sin in particular, the main reason I'm not too confident about LEC players playing the Lee side right now is that you can take down the Hecarim, but you have to be really aggressive early, which is not something that we're seeing much, at least not pre-level 6. Sin Zhao, on the other hand, scales pretty well. It's hard for Hecarim to beat him in River at pretty much any point in the game. And I would like to see people, if someone first picks Hecarim into you, answer with the Sinsao, and then you're setting yourself up for success.
All right, well, speaking of Hecarim, two of Europe's best junglers in Razork and Elyoya will clash later tonight as Fnatic and Mad Lions step on stage in the LG Ultra Gear Match of the Week.
This has already been the rockiest of starts for the reigning champions Mad Lions, but going from 2 back-to-back titles to failing to even reach those playoffs would be devastating.
No way do you do this twice! Oh, he's knocked up by the Baron! He couldn't get back in!
Fast improvement from this Mad roster is now non-negotiable. They must rediscover the spark of brilliance this team showed in previous seasons. As we arrive at the penultimate week of spring, teams are fast approaching their last chance of making it to playoffs.
We are not allowed to, I guess, mess up again, so we just want to be as good as possible. And it would be really, really disappointing to not make it into playoffs because, I'm having a really good roster, and it would just be sad if we didn't make it.
Elyoya might find an engagement. 5-man ultimate!
Block the stun. They now want to turn and burn.
Elyoya!
And again, another combo. Purchase gets instantly deleted.
Excella arm's length. Armor jumps across the wall. In a good position to assassinate someone. Hextech gate by Finn. He's going to get onto the back line. Armor tries to get in. Nuked up holds a stopwatch. Rika stepping forward. The Chaos Storm and Armor finds the shutdown.
It's kind of rough going 0-4 in the last 2 weeks, but we know exactly what we need to work on and shift our mindset a bit.
I honestly have no idea why they're having problems. I think they should be higher in the standings. It always takes new teams a lot of time to reach their normal level. We should just give them more time and then we will see. Of course, not before we play them on the weekend, we're gonna stomp them.
For Fnatic, though, the chance to find first place in the regular season is by no means out of sight. They are playing to take that top spot from Rogue, and to show that Fnatic dominance is finally back and more deadly than ever.
And now Elyoya's got to do it all. It's on him. Elyoya knocked up. Elyoya down. A quadra kill for Humanoid.
Oh, Humanoid says, "You miss me now, Elyoya." Quadra kill for the victor. My eyes were on Elyoya the entire fight, but Humanoid was the one who was untouched.
It seems as if the prodigal son of Mad Lions is returning to put the final nail in the coffin of his old squad.
Humanoid goes in, goes golden, a bit of a Messiah play to kick things off. Caps, though, will not go down. The shield coming up just in time to stop the execution, but it does not matter because finally, Fnatic will look to find the win.
Upsets on the chase, and Vitality thought they had collapsed, but it's Fnatic doing the collapsing. Upset on a killing spree, Round Wars behind them as Hylissang continues to flash in for the engage. What else but that from Hylissang?
This is a match for Mad Lions' life and pride in the LEC. Will Fnatic crush their dreams? Find out this Saturday.
Our match of the week, the Mad Lions versus Fnatic. And I hear you and I see you on Twitter. Why is this the match of the week? Well, I feel you. But on the other hand, the storylines we love so much, Mad Lions on the verge of missing playoffs as the 2-time champion, Fnatic on the up and up, battling for first place, and Humanoid against this X team. I mean, it has everything to entice me, Nymira, for a match of the week.
It does, because, we've seen this matchup a lot now at this point, and it's maybe not at the same level that we saw in that last split. It's not the finals. That doesn't mean it's suddenly lost value. It's got a lot of meaning for both of these teams, for the whole playoffs race. We know that Mad have a lot of ground to catch up. Fnatic, similarly, though, on the top in a different race, still trying to keep pace.
Yes, when it comes to the Mad Lions, Broxa, you as a player yourself, it's a difficult situation to be in. You have Elyoya and Kaiser and Armwood who are still on that roster trying to incorporate Reeker and Unforgiven. Can you give some insight into what troubles they might find on their way?
Well, I think in general, when you make changes to a team, even if it's just changing one player, everything changes. The atmosphere, the communication system, perhaps even the daily habits can be adjusted a little bit. And for Mad Lions in particular, the early game has still been pretty good with Kaiser and Elyoya. Not as convincing as last year, but still not bad at all. And I think mostly they need to find out how to make the mid-game function. That's where they can't really seem to get it together as a team. And there can be many different reasons behind that. One of the things that I would like to see from them is, you could call it a band-aid fix, would be to just play drafts that are easier to execute, just simple, easy to execute, good scaling, hard engage, pretty straightforward, because their early games are great. And if they can pick a scaling combo, do well early, easy to execute team comp should be a little easier at the very least.
But one of the reasons why I think they should pick towards potentially, easier comps is because they don't have someone as stable as Humanoid now. Because this player brought so much to both of these teams, which have found so much success in this split and in the last one. So Humanoid is such a rock. He can do all of his own stunts, but if you give him a little help, he's going to flourish with that too. And it's very hard to deny the impact he has.
Yeah, and as we look at, oh, this is so nice. It was not that long ago, of course, but Mad Lions lifting their trophy in summer, and now Humanoid playing against this X team. He already said in the video, well, we're going to crush him, so whatever. But you now are hearing, after Humanoid left the team, and also from Hillesang now on his new team, how much he actually did and shot called, which are things we can't really see when we're just watching the games.
Yeah, for sure. It's impressive how much more controlled Fnatic are now, how good their macro game is. Obviously, they made a lot of changes. One of the bigger ones was taking out Niski, which a lot of people were surprised about, bringing in Humanoid. And it's hard to say if Humanoid does something like very different than Niski does. But one thing is certain, he's playing really well, he's being really stable, and with Huli coming out in an interview saying that Humanoid, improved their macro, that's pretty impressive, because I know for a fact someone like Huli, someone like Opsit, Wonder, like these guys have so much experience. They already have played on teams that have had an incredible macro. So him coming in and bringing something even extra, that's pretty impressive.
Makes us very excited to see where Fnatic could go, but obviously hoping that Mad Lions can put on a good fight. Let's take a look at the rest of the games and our schedule. As said, everything's so important. Every game counts for the playoffs race. Astralis is out, but they are playing SK, who is still vying and have a very hard road ahead of them. So have to win every single game.
They do, but I mean, now we're looking through the whole schedule today. Every single game is going to have implications as it goes on. It's getting a bit crazy to keep track of all of them. I'm particularly got my eyes on that third game, though, that XL Rogue. That just seems so spicy. And the current form of both teams, I could see that being a close match.
Rogue has not won a game when I've been on the show, so I don't know what that means. I'm really not doing anything. In any case, let's focus in on our first game of the day, and ahead of that one between Misfits and Vitality, Laura is joined by Vitality's performance manager, Ismail, to talk about his role in the team and their season so far.
And thank you, Shox and Ismail. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been ages since we had an interview. You had different jersey back then. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks, Laura. Yeah, I have a different jersey, different vibe. So yeah, no, I'm doing well. Enjoying the new team.
Oh, and I'm glad you do so, because this is such a different group from what you had with Rogue last year, for instance. So many different players coming from different backgrounds. How has it been working with them? And tell me about your approach with this group and how to make this group work together.
Yeah, I think my approach has changed since I was working with Rogue previously with, let's say, rookie players and just developing talent, helping them to develop. Same in Misfits when I was in Misfits, so kind of similar process of talent development for performance. So now with these guys is more trying to help to meet them where they are in terms of their experiences. Each of them have already massive experience, success, defeats. So basically trying to learn with them as well how I can integrate that 1%, integrate different strategies that they have never tried, and fix some of those issues that they might have that they might not be able to optimize throughout their career. So the approach is definitely different, but in the end, the job is to optimize their day-to-day, and I think that applies for every single team, every single player in esports in general.
Where do you see progress with this team?
With this team, I think I see progress on how they approach the day-to-day in terms of communication at more the relation level. I think with such experience, such teams, such players, you could have the tendency to think that they are over their heads and they don't have they don't keep their feet on the ground. And I think they've been able to understand, to listen to each other and to have discussions, but then at the same time to understand what the other is saying, to try to put together those different experiences. So I think that's something surprising to me based on, let's say, their personalities. But so far it's working well. I think everyone is committed to it, committed to try to reach high highs. And I think that's part of what we're trying to do.
That's fantastic to hear. And something I also wanted to mention with you, Ismail, is a wider thing in esports, which is addressing mental health, because I feel like it's been something becoming more important over the past few years. Do you think it's been acknowledged the right way in esports, and what kind of progress do you see in this area when it comes to tying it down to performance especially?
I think it has improved quite a lot, mainly from the top of the organizations. I think when I started in 2017, mental health issues in esports or just trying to integrate the psychology into esports was not widely acknowledged or widely open. Right now, I think like organizations are trying to do better and more for the players. And I think players understand as well the importance for them to look after themselves, to look after each other as well. I think we come from an industry which it could be very toxic, and mental health issues will come because that's part of the humans as well. We are very vulnerable, and I think we're creating some strategies for them to cope with it, not to deny them or not to avoid them, because you will be exposed to many things as a public figure. So the idea is for the organizations, and our organization is to give them strategies how to cope with these issues that will arise at some point. And the pressure of making it to playoffs is, for example, one. So I think we've been working a lot on giving them strategies for them to deal with this.
That's amazing to hear, and such an important topic. Again, Ismael, thank you so much for the interview. Good luck today against Misfits. It's going to be an interesting match, I hope. And Shocks, back to you.
Thank you very much, Laura. Always great to hear from Ismael, who's been doing great work throughout the years. And Broxa, we were talking a bit about the point of mental health specifically, right? So I'll just let you reply to what Ismael was saying.
I think it's funny because me and Ismael in a lot of ways have a similar perspective. I feel like he said he came in 2017. 2017 spring was my first split in the LEC as well. And there's no doubt that teams putting more priority, especially now on having a mental coach or like a performance manager, anything, just someone who can help players deal with pressure, deal with daily habits, daily problems, is really, really important and really key, because obviously being good at League of Legends is like one thing, that's one step in the right direction, but there are so many outside factors that play in as well. Having someone like Ismael to help out is huge, without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely. And I think especially what he was saying on the topic of vitality, you know, the big personalities that need to perform. It's going to be interesting to see their journey. And Vitality is right now up versus Misfits. And I mean, this is going to be an amazing game. I definitely hope so. Vitality, after, you know, crawling over the finish line yesterday, but they have a win in their back pocket. And this man on your screen now, VTO with Misfits locking playoffs after that absolute cracker of a game versus G2 Esports yesterday, coming back from 13,500 deficit on the Rift.
And I know that we were kind of talking about that ourselves in terms of like when Humanoid was on here yesterday saying, oh, mid lane's a little bit boring right now. VTO makes it look anything but that. He's playing so flashy, he's playing with flair, he's carrying his team so hard. And you might have to say that he has to carry his team, particularly with these kind of games. But given the opportunity, he has done that very consistently. So impressive as a player.
I think the one thing that's special about Vivio, comparing him to some of the other top mids like Larsen or Humanoid, is the fact that Vivio, sure, his team is pretty good as well, but it's not the same as playing on Rogue, playing on Fnatic, these like extremely stacked, experienced rosters. And Larsen and Humanoid, they can go into a game thinking, well, we just need to play like pretty well. We can even go even and the game is going to be fine because we're so strong across the map. We're going to be able to out-macro them. Vivio, when he goes into the game, he's probably thinking to himself, well, I need to have a good game. I need to carry. I need to put the carry pants on, get in there and show the enemy team how it's done. And the fact that he's playing with so much pressure and still performs is really impressive.
Yeah, and he's done that time after time after time this season, which has then also allowed the rest of his team to step up, right? There are no slouches. Neon is having carry performances of his own. But when we focus in on the mid lane matchup here, it is so cool to see Perkz versus VTO and the way this kind of has evolved since, well, Perkz, of course, left us for a year to go to NA, and now VTO is really coming into his own.
And for the longest time, Perkz was kind of like the main character of the LEC, getting with that G2 roster right to the finals and everything. And then you look over at VTO and suddenly it feels like VTO is the protagonist. He's the main character of this split at the very least. And to see all of these other characters who are also so good kind of fall into his shadow somehow, some way is so exciting to see.
You already mentioned how VTO Broxa likes to pull out whatever champion is necessary to put on the carry pants. How do you see Perkz' role within this Vitality?
I think Perkz, without a doubt, has a really important role within Vitality, especially after the shaky start. Perkz usually would be the one on his team to pull them back, to be the leader, to make sure they still have fun, have a good time, and just bring everyone back together. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this matchup. Going back to Vivio for a moment, he reminds me in a lot of ways of Caps in like the early days, because Perkz was the one to beat when Caps came onto Fnatic into the LEC. Eventually, Caps, took over. Perkz became his AD carry, just to have Caps on the team, and I'm excited to see where Vivio is going to go along the way.
We are going to cover the picks and bans right here on the desk, and Nymira, I feel like it's going to be an interesting one, because when I think about Misfits and about Vitality, I think, okay, there are some positions where they need to maybe have a distinguished plan, but I do see a lot of room for creativity in both these squads.
Well, obviously, yes, I think both these teams do have their members which have pushed the boat out just a little further. I mean, we saw Perkz playing Zilean, which is not a pick we see very often from him, if at all, actually. I'm trying to remember if he's played that. But for me, where this is going to come down to is actually because Alphari had such a good game yesterday, whether that top lane is going to be left.
It's going to be so interesting. We're going to take a look at the draft for our first game of the day, Vitality versus Misfits.